To investigate our subject matter, a decent way to start is by asking, what is objectivity? If we break down the word, it is clear that objects have something to do with it. But what is an object then? We have plenty of examples. Let's take a canonical one, namely, mid-sized dry goods with reasonably sharp boundaries. A kitchen table. This table is brown. Brownness is a property of the table. A property is not an object in the way a table is. Objects like tables are first and foremost carriers of properties like brownness. Every object has many properties. Likewise, objects stand in a multitude of relationships to other objects. The table is on the dune. X is on Y is a relation that an indefinite number of objects might entertain. Like properties, relationships, whatever they are not the same as objects. Objects have properties and stand in relationships, but not vice versa. Is this all? An obvious further contrast is with the category of subject, and indeed, ordinary language and thought confronts us with a dichotomy of objects and subjects. One might suspect that understanding subjects is a key to understanding subjectivity in analogy to objects and objectivity. What is a subject then? We are not missing paradigmatic examples in this case either. You are a subject, and so is Timmy, puzzling away on the dunes. Subjects like objects have properties and stand in relationships, but what sets them apart? What makes their separation warranted? Simple answer. A subject has mental properties, or in a more objectifying slang, has a mind. Now, minds are vast houses of mental furniture. What's most relevant here are not the fiery passions nor the automatic processes, but rather thoughts. Thoughts are like sentences, just inside the head. They have constituents like words that point outward to extra mental objects as tables. These constituents are concepts. That is, thoughts are made out of concepts like sentences are made out of words. The table and its properties and relations are objective. They are all out there in the world standing firm. Thoughts are subjective, meaning that they are thoughts of a subject, but being subjective doesn't imply being invalid or just your opinion. How come? If your thought represents the object as is, then we say that the thought is true. Truth being a property of some thoughts and not of others. Therefore, subjectivity and objectivity go hand in hand. If you think that the table is brown and there is a table possessing the property of brownness, then your subjective thought is objectively true. You might be wrong about this table or any other object and their properties, but that is another story. What on heaven and earth does all of this have to do with morality? Morality's fundamental subjects are the good and the bad. Good and bad are properties, and we say of something or someone that they have one or the other. Let's apply our pretty abstract overall analysis to this domain of discourse. Suppose we have a something out there, and we want to judge it as good. That is, ascribe the property of being good to it. Who's doing the judging is the subject, and the subject's judgment is subjective because of this very basic fact that it is the particular judgment of this particular subject. What the judgment is about is something external to whom is doing the judging. One way to look at this situation is analogous to the one with the table being brown. If there is no table, or the table is purple, our subjective judgment is objectively false. Likewise, for the attribution of goodness, if what we are talking about is not there or not good, the judgment is objectively false. Now, in the latter case, it is commonly assumed that the concession that even though, as it were, there is really no property of goodness out there, it is still legitimate to keep the corresponding judgments and beliefs as subjectively valid. Different cultures, after all, have been shown to have incompatible, but somehow valid moral judgments. Does this way of seeing things make even sense? The following considerations should be seen as casting a shadow of doubt on its meaningfulness. Our beliefs and judgments are deeply dependent on reality. One's beliefs in being their lettuce in the fridge would have to be adjusted upon discovering the fridge empty. It would be absurd to uphold the belief on the ground of its subjectivity. Why would we want to subscribe to the view that it makes sense to hold on to a subjective belief stating that there is an objective, mind-independent, subject-independent, property had by something out there, and at the same time saying that there is no such thing? We are confronted with a contradiction. I'll let you be the judge of whether this is only an apparent contradiction that could be dissolved by a better alternative view of the basic elements of the matter. Tilting slightly the direction of the discussion, I would like to consider perception. Perception serves the biological instrumental ends of survival and reproduction. It does not track the objective properties and patterns of reality, just good enough to make the organism's practical goals obtainable. Prime examples of this fact are the optical illusions our brains are so prone to fall into. According to our eyes, one line is longer than the other. According to the ruler, they have the same length. Are you going to believe your eyes this time? Why not uphold our strong subjective inclination to intuitively judge it as having different length? The lines cannot have the same length and different length. Pick one. In matters of morality, we don't have a ruler to quantitatively put to rest our doubts, but the contradiction remains. So, pick one here as well. Now, there is a further way out of the inconsistency. You have two options. You adjust your belief to one for which morality is objective. Therefore, the subjective judgment and belief, when correct, is tracking a property out there. Or, you have to abandon your subjective judgment and belief altogether. If there is no brown kitchen table on the dunes, you should not say that there is one nor believe it.